Hey folks, hopefully everyone out there is getting on board and that you can see me. So trying from a different camera and from my desktop this time. So this is how I usually do my podcast. So let me know if you're out there. Let me know if this is working. If we see some people signing up, I don't see it working. So let me just see testing 1, 2, 3. We got one person. Now we got some people coming in. I wasn't sure if this was actually working or not. So hopefully it'll be working. And this is new. Yep, it looks like all is good. So going to join in. Hey Janine, this is a much bigger screen for me, so it might actually work better. Starting to see the usual signs that we did something right. So hopefully this is all in HD for you guys. And you're seeing me and hearing me just fine using my yep, loud and clear. Hey Nadine, hey Rex, people are jumping on board, so this is great. So we'll just wait for a few more people to get on board and look forward to answering your questions and a few things of my own. So sometimes topics just presents themselves, Janine. Often I don't come here with a topic. I want to more and more each time we do this. I would prefer that people bring in their own topics that they want me to discuss. So that's better for me. Every so often I might have something to rant and rave about, but usually I want to be here to answer all your questions and topics. So no Jasper t-shirt. I'm actually put the Jasper t-shirt in the Goodwill bag, so it's seen all the days it's going to see on my back. So and yeah, so if anything screws up here, it's because I'm on my other computer. So we just want to make sure that I can shrink the page and read things I want to read, and we're just waiting for more people to get on board. And I appreciate the thumbs and the hearts, folks. As I always say, Facebook really likes that. So sorry, Janine, I'll have to drive to Jasper and get another one, I guess, for a future podcast. So sometimes material presents itself, but I mean, first and foremost, if you weren't following, good morning, Stephanie, Montreal, wow, okay, and Timmins. So little Canadian content this time. Usually it's my own home country that's least represented in my in my Breakfast with the Coach show, so that's good. Now, if you weren't following my Facebook yesterday, I got to reiterate again, congratulations to my business manager, Mike, who on Friday successfully defended his PhD thesis, and as of Friday is Dr. Mike. You know him as Mike Forrest. That's a pseudonym. Nom de plume, that's an online name, but you know him as Mike Forrest. So he is now Dr. Mike. He's also my co-host on the podcast Smarter Sculpted Physique. So congrats to him, many congrats to him. There's nothing I respect more than a formal education. So Dr. Mike from now on when you listen into the Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast. So kudos and applause and all that sent out to Mike. So we got Australia, we got New Zealand, we got New Jersey, we got Toronto. Okay, we got several things happening. So I'm glad you can all see and hear me now. Sometimes, of course, material just presents itself. So if you can just hold off on comment, because I'm going to have to shrink the screen for a minute. Oh, and from Greece. Always nice to have people from Europe on. I'm going to shrink the screen for a minute to read an email that actually just came in before I went live, and it feeds into something I want to talk about. So one of the things is the major difference between being a trainer and being a coach. For me, there's a huge separation between the two. So I just want to read some of that stuff. And we got opposite coasts being represented now, Florida and San Diego. So and Pakistan. So that's quite the global group. So anyway, I just got this email. If you hold off your comments, because I won't be able to see them for a minute. So it says, "Hi Scott, and warm greetings to you from across the globe. I hope life is treating you well and keeping well in this life. I just have to tell you, you are one of the most influential coaches I've ever come across, and by listening to your podcast and my favorite Breakfast with the Coach and reading your insightful books, you've helped me tremendously with my personal training business and that of my own life. For that, I am truly grateful to you. I hope you don't mind me writing you. I actually feel you may be the only person that will understand my thoughts below. And here's the important part, and I'm not just reading the slurpy part. It says, I've been a personal trainer for many years now, and I've gotten so frustrated with the state of the fitness industry, and I feel more and more isolated as a trainer who has embraced many of your philosophies. It feels as if I have divorced the fitness industry and I seek to become a coach, someone who truly understands the meaning of the word at a deep emotional, mental, and spiritual level. I truly believe that as you become a better person, you may also become a better coach. That's absolutely true. So I continue to work on my own mental and emotional fitness, as we all should do throughout life. Lately, Coach, I've been working with a client with body image disorders, which has led me to studying a lot of your books. You seem to be a true authority in this area, and through your work, I am seeing some powerful changes in my client. We have a lot more work to do, but it's hugely rewarding for me at every level. I guess, Coach, what I'm really trying to say is that I aspire to move into the coaching realm and take a lot of inspiration from you, but it's a lonely world in that I require guidance, as my breakup with the fitness industry makes me feel alienated, even though I feel it's my purpose and my calling in life. Thank you, Coach. You inspire me each and every day to do and be more. Any advice for me? Well, that email has tremendous implications and impacts that can benefit anyone who's tuned in here. If you're a trainer or a coach or whatever, there's a lot of things there. So yes, there is a huge difference between being a personal trainer and being a coach. As I always say, trainers coach workouts, coaches coach people, and that's the difference. You have to have good communication skills, you have to have good psychological skills, good cognitive abilities, and you have to be able to relate to people from where they're at, not necessarily from where you're at. So I can also relate to this person. I don't want to leave names. The whole sort of marriage thing and the divorce thing from the fitness industry. As everyone knows, I left the hardcore bodybuilding industry the same kind of way. I would call it like a divorce as well. First with anger and resentment, and then sort of considering over the years, taking it all in and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and taking away the good elements of that. So I think that's one thing you need to do if you're trying to take your personal training to the next level, because yes, coaching is vastly different than personal training is, and that's maybe some of the growing pains that you're feeling there. Because what you'll run into, I've run into also my whole career, is that everyone wants to reduce everything to some magic supplement, some magic exercise, some, have you heard about this person's this and this person's that? And especially with modern marketing gimmicks, that becomes, really, really hard to deal with. So also, yes, you should always be working on yourself. The better you are as a person, the more you're growing as a person, then of course the better you're going to be as a coach. Absolutely. So there's also personal growth that expands to the people you'll be dealing with, and you can learn from them as well. So here's what I wrote down, and I've written it before. I forget which one of my books it's in, but here's the analogy for this person who's probably is listening right now, and then I'll get to your questions. About what I call big C coaching. If you've read my book, The Able Approach, I talk about the difference between little C coaching and big C coaching, and it's a lot along the lines of what that email was about, in terms of trying to graduate from the frustrations of the fitness industry and the sort of shallow appearances of nice bodies equal nice lives to something better, something grander. All right, so I liken this analogy that I'm about to read, this metaphor of big C coaching, is like someone who's not a daredevil at heart deciding that they want to try skydiving, okay? So real coaching, I'm going to read what I wrote down, real big C coaching, as in capital C coaching, is a lot like being a skydiving instructor. You're there for the skydiver. You allow the person to decide if and when she is going to jump and when she herself is ready to jump. Once she does jump, you attach yourself to the jumper's back with an extra parachute just in case they falter and their parachute doesn't open, or in case emotional panic sets in and they freeze during the free fall. You never let that person hit the ground, and they trust that about you. You know they may be afraid, and you respect that. You don't use their fear against them. You want to help them to be ready to jump and to dive, but to do so with enthusiasm and excitement and anticipation and a sense of challenge, not to do so in fear, not to do so in deprivation, and not taunting them with judgment. The Big C coach is always there to help and encourage and participate, not to judge and to expect, and especially not to take away the jumper's sense of control. The real coach doesn't want you to think that he's awesome just because he can jump and he knows how and when to pull the ripcord. No, the real coach wants to teach you to feel awesome about yourself and strong and confident enough to pull your own ripcord when it's the right time for you, and amidst all the excitement, and enjoy all the excitement of the free fall. That, folks, is real Big C coaching, and that has nothing to do with sets, reps, grams, and calories. So big picture, folks. So in that analogy, the sky jumping instructor over the long term represents what Big C coaching should be all about, which is trust, encouragement, building confidence and confidence in someone else so that they can take a jump on their own and do so with confidence and a sense of thrill and excitement and anticipation, rather than fear of failure, all right, and fear of all the negatives that might happen. All right, so very, very important stuff. That's what I had for today. That was a nice, that letter was fortunate timing. I'm glad it came in, but I'm sure it represents the frustrations of many personal trainers out there, because here's the thing, personal training itself is, people will find out, it's dead-end work after a while. And what I mean by that is it has what we call, because it's labor intensive, it has what we call a very low ceiling. In other words, there's only so many hours in a day you can work. You build up so much clientele at so many dollars an hour, you want a return on your investment. Well, how do you become upwardly mobile with that? Because you can't work anymore, and unless you've made an extreme name for yourself, then you're not going to be able to charge much more. And if you're working for a company, like a modern trading fitness company, like a chain gym, then they're going to take the lion's share of your income anyway. So that can turn into what we call ghettoized labor, where you're actually not earning what you should be earning because you're giving a portion of that away to someone else who isn't actually doing the work. So that becomes a form of ghettoized labor. So in the letter I wrote you, what that person's experiencing, I've seen a lot, is many people get into this with a real high love of fitness, and they burn out so fast because they try to be upwardly mobile and they try to move too fast, too quick by taking on more and more clients. But unlike what I do, my job is not labor intensive, so there's no ceiling on what I do. That's why I can write 20 books and do 2 live shows a week and all the projects that you see, because I have a very low labor intensive, so I have a very high free time thing. So a lot of the times personal trainers end up trapped, and then the love for fitness, they don't have a time to take care of their own bodies anymore because they're trying to make more money and establish a name for themselves, and then they end up burning out. An interesting statistic about that is the life of a personal trainer in this industry tends to be very short. The average is 2 years, and they say the maximum is 5 years. So the fact that I've been not just surviving but thriving in this industry for 4 decades, I think I've got something to say about how to do that, regardless of what other people say. But if you're going to start chasing trends and tracing what the latest hot topic and the latest vogue trend is in this industry, you're likely not going to last. And even if you do last, you'll last at a very low level and not be taken seriously by the people who matter. So if you're going to fall into vogue trends like keto diets and exogenous ketones and whatever supplement du jour, remember, I've been around 4 decades. I've seen all these magic supplements come and go, L-carnitine and pyruvate and HMB and chromium picolinate. In their time, each and every one of these was the magic secret. And all the personal trainers who wanted to make more money jumped on this stuff and started selling this nonsense. And then, of course, there's the multi-level marketing hiding behind fitness as well with isogenics and Body by V and things like that. And if you're a person who has to stoop to trying to sell these kind of things to stay in the industry, then your time in the industry is going to be short anyway. So I guess what I'm saying along the lines of that letter that I read is the first and foremost thing that you need to establish is a level of integrity that can't be challenged. And once you do that, I think as much as people may not have a good enough knowledge of the game, most people have a good enough read of people where they will know true expertise when they hear it. If they're put up, as long as they're exposed to it. I mean, if you're put up beside some vogue trainer in the gym who's chasing trends and talking garbage and talking nonsense, then you probably don't know the difference. But once you hear someone who's a true professional, true expert talk, then you will know the difference. So that's a very important distinction as well. So very, very important to understand and to know, and especially for the consumers out there, I think it's really time in this industry to start for the consumer to start taking on some responsibility as well and become more knowledgeable. And you don't do that by chasing information. Einstein said information is not knowledge. So one of the reasons is just a little personal note. One of the reasons I went back to training at a gym, because I have my dungeon here and I'm a very solitary person. I love being alone, so I actually crave it. One of the reasons I went back to training in a gym facility is so I could be around observing again with my own eyes the thinking and feeling and the goings on in the gym of people who are training and the actual trainers and things like that. And it still to this day boggles my mind with all the expertise that's available now that wasn't available in my day. All the nonsense. I mean, there's so many self-appointed gurus just in the little gym I train at. There's people who they're not even working in the field of fitness, and they have a little entourage following, and they're dictating this and dictating that, and I'm hearing the stuff coming out of their mouth, and it's absolute nonsense. And I just have to close my eyes and ears and go, wow. I mean, these are nice people, but they have no idea what they're talking about. They just sort of, their opinion must be knowledge because it's their opinion. And for someone who's like 4 decades experience and traveled the world because other people want to hear what I have to say, that's hard to be in a gym listening to that kind of stuff. So, sometimes I have to put blinders on. But it's good for me to help me educate you in terms of what's out there right now. So that's a very, very important thing. So hopefully that skydiving analogy, metaphor about what Big C coaching is, hopefully that resonated. And you have to work on behalf of the client, and the fitness program and the diet strategy is just a part of that. And then gauging how they do or do not do, how well they do with that, helps to tell you what your client's needs are and how you're going to go about helping them moving forward. Some people are going to start slower than others. Some people are going to start fast and burn out. You have to get to know a client's personality type and deal with the client at their level, not necessarily your level. And that requires accountability, but it requires support as well, and that's a delicate touch. So I think in terms of being a #1 coach in this industry, my background in social work and my graduate degree in that area, working with troubled youths and then doing marriage counseling and then doing counseling for prisoners who were incarcerated long-term and then released into the community, and I had to find them work in homes and teach them basic life skills to function in the community. All those things taught me how to be flexible in terms of thinking at the level of other people. And I think that's something that separates me from other coaches in this industry who can't do that. They think coaching is still about, they still think coaching is about sets and reps and grams and magic programs and all the rest of it. And, if you saw my before and after picture of my latest client, Scott, a couple of weeks ago, I said flat out, the training I assigned him was generic. The diet I assigned him was generic. What we worked on was his negative mindset. And we worked on, my ABLE coaching phrase, quality of mindset determines quality of behavior. So we started working from that premise and challenging his stinking thinking, the stuff that would sabotage him long term. So let me get to some of your questions. Hopefully that real help. Michelle says, a real coach helps you with your mindset. The non-scale victories. And Michelle says she's her own trainer, but she has a coach to guide her. I mean, sure. Most of not most, I would say a large portion of my clients are also trainers, and some of them are even coaches. So, Ange says she's seeing burnout with the trainers at 24/7 gyms. It's sad to see as they work really hard, taking on more clients, but not enough hours in the day. And that's why fitness careers tend to be very, very short, and they start out with a bunch of lies, right? A bunch of promises, a bunch of, you go girl kind of nonsense. People not explaining the difference between labor-intensive work and mental-intensive work and the opportunities and the limits. That's why we say there's a low ceiling for personal training in terms of income. So that's an important thing. Tracy Lynn says, same in the nutrition and naturopathic world. She put naturopathic in quotes, and I would too. All the natural prescriptions and supplements being doled out by a naturopath. Gurus. I have clients taking more crap pills that they don't need. Yeah, I'm not a big, before anyone wants to, people challenge me all the time on YouTube when I say that I think naturopathic is ridiculous, and I think homeopathy is even more ridiculous. If you understand the premise behind homeopathy, it makes no sense at all, but that's fine. Tracy, you know what I've seen with all these people that go to naturopaths and they become orthorexic and they're swallowing 30, 40 pills a day. I've seen people actually get plastic toxic poisoning. We've seen that a lot now because they're taking so many pills that are wrapped in cheap plastic so that the manufacturer can make more money, that they're actually ending up with gastrointestinal problems. And guess what happens then? Then they're assigned more supplements to deal with the gastrointestinal stuff, when the actual problem is they're swallowing so much plastic that's what's causing the issue. So I wish people could think on a deeper level, but they don't anymore. We're seeing an issue, and you guys can look this up later. We're seeing an issue called endotoxemia now. And endotoxemia is also what's happening in the guts. That's creating gastrointestinal issues. People are taking ibuprofen and stuff for intra-workout pain and inflammation, and because of the level of training they're training at, upsetting the tissue in the guts, combined with ibuprofen, is producing what's called endotoxemia. And none of this stuff, rhado and endotoxemia, none of this stuff was around, in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. It wasn't until the advent of CrossFit and all this Biggest Loser nonsense where you train people into the ground. These are modern preventable ailments, all right? They're not something unique to your own innate biology, okay? These are preventable things. So, let me see another. Laura Lou says, you're hitting the nail on the head. You're the real deal. I only listen to a handful of people. Too many goons or captains on the ships out there. Yeah, I've seen that, Laura. I said before, if everyone's a general, then no one's a soldier. And it's tiring, people have been around half as long and have accomplished a tenth as much, and I'm supposed to take them seriously because they declare themselves my competition. It's just, I call it the ankle biter effect. There's everyone who wants to try to, it's the little dog trying to nip at the heels and the ankles of the bigger, more dominant of the species. So I think that's normal. It may be normal in every industry, but it's followed me around my whole career. And I got used to categorizing people so that it would have less emotional impact when I get attacked directly. So people are either fall into the ankle biter category or the peanut gallery category. So, but I do take seriously any feedback from people who are actually in my life. If they're not part of my life, they fall into one of those two categories, and I really don't care. And you have to develop a thick skin. Any leader in any industry is going to tell you that. If you have a thin skin, then you're probably not going to do well in an industry if you're going to be at the forefront of the industry writing books and things like that. So, so that's important as well. Okay, so here's one. Anita says, my mother's naturopath is always giving her supplements for candida and parasites. It's making me crazy. And you know what, Anita? Candida, okay, that was nonsense from the 70s. That was debunked and disproven over and over again. And what we see in the fitness and diet industry is cycles, okay? These things come on, paleo dieting's wonderful, blah, 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 and then they get disproven by academia, and they fade, from the limelight, and then they tend to come back. Candidiasis, was once everybody's problem. Everybody had it, and if you weren't treating it, that's why you had stomach issues and weight issues. It was the gluten of its day, all right? And it got disproven over and over again by academia. Part of that disproving of that was calling into question Linus Pauling, who was a Nobel Prize-winning laureate. So he was considered God and untouchable, so no one could criticize him. But he said some real crazy stuff. So this was a guy advocating taking 10 grams of vitamin C a day with absolutely no proof of its value at all. And this trickles into the sort of whole naturopath kind of nonsense. But the fact that anyone is thinking that candida is still something real out there, again, it's just a way to profit and make money off of people. Tell them there's something wrong with them. There's Warren Buffett had a famous saying. Warren Buffett said, never ask a barber if you need a haircut. It's the same thing. Walking into these naturopaths and getting tested, you don't think they're going to find something that you could be taking to be healthier? Of course they are. That's how they make money. So there's a tremendous bias there. So and then now people are writing in some horror stories about their experience with these. But yeah, there's a lot of nightmare experiences you can have from supplements, and I'll get into some other ones in future podcasts. I got to get into one with the Coach and Andy show on Thursday, since we started it on the Coach and Andy show. I'd like to finish it there, but it has to do with this nonsense, exogenous ketones. It's the new supplement. And someone wrote in trying to defend it after the fact. And I mean, the comments that come in to support something illustrate people's lack of education in that specific area. So they trust what they're reading on a website that markets this crap, and they're trusting it as actual knowledge. And I'll explain that in a next podcast. So Lisa says, nobody has the knowledge you have, Scott. Well, I don't know about that. I have studied the industry years and years, and a lot of time and effort. And that is frustrating, because Lisa says now anybody and everybody's a coach and trainer. You build a house from the structure. Others build houses from ego. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The rest is just flattery, so I appreciate that, Lisa. But I had an experience just recently where client of mine is everything I said not to be. Right, goes into a natural contest, wins when the competition isn't even that stiff, goes into the next natural contest with my training and my dieting and wins. But now online, he offering training and coaching, because that's all it takes, apparently. Win a contest and you absolutely know how to help other people who have struggled with food or weight for years and years and years, and suddenly, because you won a contest, you're their solution. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So Nancy asked, why is there so much out there on parasites? Well, Nancy, the simple solution is because it's a good way to make money. 5 years ago, you could say, why is there so much out there on gluten? And then you would say, well, this gluten to the consumer who doesn't know anything all of a sudden they hear gluten here, gluten there, gluten everywhere you go, gluten, gluten. So their mind automatically thinks, well, there must be something to this because it's everywhere. And the something to this was an actual, science and issues. It was more to the point of lots of companies jumping on a way to make money and to, profit. The one way you can profit, I mean, this is common marketing knowledge. If you want to profit from something, make people afraid of its alternative. Right? So if you have gluten-free, it makes no sense to have a gluten-free product unless you convince people that gluten is a scary bad thing. All right? So, or the other way, with these exogenous ketones, the latest nonsense that's out there, if you can just convince people that ketosis is good and you offer them something that will enhance that, then you increase your profit margin. So a lot of it is just manipulating the minds of consumers, and if you can do that through faulty or tautological logic, the consumer doesn't really care. Here's the other thing that's always boggled my mind. Now, going back, remember, I was an endorsed athlete for several supplement companies, right? They used my pictures, blah, blah, blah. And the latest thing that still continues today is that people, supplement companies in particular, have these online transformation contests, right? Woo woo. And then they name a winner and all this stuff. People not understand what's going on there. Do you really think someone transformed their body in 3 or 4 months by taking a certain fat burner or a certain company brand of whatever? They transform their body by sticking to a diet and following a regular training regimen, probably more solidly than they ever did before, and they may have taken those supplements along the way. But here's the thing, the supplements were incidental, not instrumental, to those people getting those results. I know, because part of my contract with these supplement companies, when I wrote for the magazines and stuff, and people who are on here like Lisa, who knew me from back in the day, these supplement companies hired me to transform their before and after clients. So we did that with their diet and their training and my expertise. We didn't even take their supplements. It's just by signing the contract, the supplement companies took the credit for it. And that goes on to this day. So, of course, when people read that, and what else happens? Other consumers hear, oh, my friend is doing a 12-week transformation contest for Yucky Poo Poo Stinky Caca supplement line. I think I'll do it with her. Well, you get, this sort of, communion, this sense of community thing, right? And then that builds up an online name. Oh, everyone's doing this thing over here. This company must be legit. But it's all just manipulating the mindset of the consumer. And it's funny, I've said this a million times, I could have been a millionaire by now selling supplements and jumping on that wagon, since I was on the bottom floor of several companies that have later become multi-million-dollar companies, if I wanted to go that way. And I left that world because I didn't want to manipulate consumers that way and destroy their spirit that way for the 90% that will fail. And when I come out and tell the truth about this stuff, I'm the bad guy. So that's interesting to me in a sociological kind of framework. Oh, sorry, my camera just went hog wild. So hopefully the picture will correct itself. There we go. Next question. I don't know. Let me see here. Okay, sort of. Tracy, Lynn, your question was kind of cut off. Adrian says, I noticed in your cycle diet book you include some carb cycling, fat cycling options. Yeah, but I include them for the sake of the people who, if I didn't include them, are going to say, well, what about this? So I was kind of like, a little preventative medicine. So just curious what the benefits are to this, strictly personal preference. No, that's just a level of experience there, Adrian. From writing the books, it's always the one little thing that I didn't include that I'll get letters about. Well, why didn't you talk about this? Well, usually my answer is I didn't talk about it because it doesn't merit conversation because it's so freaking unimportant. But again, the industry builds this stuff up to be important. So, again, carb cycling and stuff like that. There's an old saying that smart people solve problems, geniuses prevent them. All right? So the more simple you can make something, the better you want that to be, and the better that's going to be for your clients. So that's what I try to do, is simplify to the nth degree, and then find out through experience with a client what their particular complication may be. Not the one that's been drummed into their head that they're gluten intolerant or they're carb resistant or whatever, all right? But actual working with them and finding out that a complication isn't necessarily a complication so much as it may be an obstacle. And most of those obstacles are thought obstacles, to tell you the truth. So, good question, though. Yeah, and I appreciate all the supportive comments coming in as well, folks. I really appreciate that. Any other questions now? I'm sort of off my high horse. I'm off my pedestal. I'm off my yelling and screaming for the moment, unless you give me something else. Tracy Lynn, you were talking about something about a friend getting ready to compete, but then your comment was cut off, something about stair climbing. But yeah. Other than that, folks, I mean, things are going well here behind me on that chair. I think you can see some of my books that I've printed out to hard copies. I don't usually do that anymore. Most of them are downloads, but yeah, that's the thing. So any questions out there, folks? The audience is building pretty good. So yeah, I mean, to reiterate, it doesn't make me very popular in the fitness industry, but I'm not a big believer in supplements, period. But naturopathic and homeopathy in general really make me roll my eyes. And it's because I've done the research. And you don't write 20 books by doing no research. So I've done that research, and it leaves me shaking my head with what people are willing to believe. Homeopathy in particular is just beyond ridiculous. That you take you dilute something to like 1/1000th of its strength, and somehow by taking that regularly it builds up in your system and has the same effect. Well, if I put an eyedropper of alcohol in my water, am I going to get drunk if I do that every day for a week? Likely not. So the argument behind homeopathy is just mind-bogglingly too simplistic to be believed. So but I mean, I'll get nasty letters on that too. So so be it. Yeah. So anyway, let's get some questions in here, folks. That was my rant on coaching. Hopefully that helped. It's funny how I seem to get an email just before I go live, and that always helps me with topics to talk about. But in the future, I'm going to try to send out notices when I'm live, so that people can get their questions ready and things like that. So that would be good. Yeah, I've had that. Nancy writes in that since she stopped all her supplements, her GI problems have improved. Probably was the plastic. She never thought about that before. Yeah, I've had many people like that. I mean, they want to defend what we call defending your limitations. People want to be victims for things. So the last thing I try to do is not challenge them on that, but I just say, well, okay, you're taking $500 worth of supplements right now. Let's go off them for 3 or 4 months and see if you notice a difference in anything. How you feel, how you look, blah, blah, blah. And the ones that will try that test are usually pretty surprised that they've been spending $500 a month on a placebo effect. But that's a hard thing. So just some comments on gluten. I think a couple weeks ago, Tony, if you look at my breakfast with the coach, I did a study that showed that the gluten thing is completely overblown, and unless you actually have celiac, then you're not going to be gluten intolerant. You can find that study in a previous Breakfast with the Coaches episode that are on YouTube. So if you still think that you're gluten intolerant, that's for you to work out, but the academia says otherwise on that, so just to let you know. Yeah, Tracy, I know you say I find that I have to walk away from that conversation regarding competing and cardio. Yeah, me too. I mean, I don't even want to wish people in the gym that I see that are all dieted down and obviously competing. I don't even want to wish them good luck anymore because it seems like hypocrisy. I mean, I want to walk up to half the women and say, why are you doing this to yourself? What is the reward? You know, as I said last week, you know, a couple ladies in the gym trying to convince our Krista that she should compete because she's so pretty and she's everything else. Well, these people are spending $2,000-$3,000 on a contest. Krista's already earned that much just by doing exercise demos. So here's people like spending their whole income and exhausting themselves in the pursuit of a $20 trophy, and here's someone else not changing her lifestyle at all and being truly authentic to the fitness lifestyle and actually earning money doing it. Shouldn't that be what it's about? So I don't get this attraction to the stage and the 10 minutes, 20 minutes of stage time for validation of a false physique. Don't forget, these people on stage, they're having a physique they're never going to be able to sustain or maintain. So they're saying, please validate this part of me that isn't real, you know, that I work 5 months to achieve that I can't ever keep. That makes no sense to me anyway. And don't forget, I was at the top of that industry and that part of the industry for decades. So I walked away from it because I just couldn't reconcile being part of that nonsense anymore. So, question. Oh, no, comment. Okay. But good point, Tracy, about walking away from those conversations. Because, yeah, you know, people like that, it's like I said about fanatics. Fanatics are people who can't change their mind and won't change the subject. Competitors are like that. They just cement themselves into trying to convince themselves that's a wonderful world. Subcultures are like that. They put the cult in subculture. So yeah, you're not going to get anywhere trying to talk to those people directly. But people on the fringe who think that looks interesting, who don't know anything about it, maybe we can reach those people before they do serious damage. Perry says, shout out for the Abs by Andy program. Terrific. I've incorporated into the hard gainer solution. Yeah, we've done that with a few people. Seeing results already. Well, hopefully, Perry, you've sent us a testimonial and a 5-star rating. Absbyandy.com, folks, is what he's talking about, and he's also talking about my hard gainer solution as well. So yeah, those products are both really doing well, and you may or may not know, Perry, but we're just finished shooting. We're going to turn the hard gainer solution into a full course as well, go from the book to a course as well. So we finally finished shooting videos for that, and now it's up to Dr. Mike to, boy, I like saying that, up to Dr. Mike to tie that all together, and then you know, crack the whip for me to tie together some videos to get that ready for market, and we'll have that available to people in the near future as well. So yeah, there's a big thing about lectins now. I'm not even going to get into such a silly conversation, Nancy. It's funny, you know, that what this brings up, like Nancy's just mentioning, like you know, online, you know, stuff like lectins and things like that. It's amazing. I can tell people who are entrenched in online industry nonsense by the letters they write me. They'll write, you know, I've tried carb backloading, and then I did intermittent fasting, and then I did this, and I make sure I avoid gluten, and I try to eat mostly paleo, and it's just a scroll list of what was a vogue trend online for the last 5 years, and yet they still can't see they've got them nowhere. So they've tried all the online trends, maybe not realizing that online trends are, like I said earlier, all about marketing and making money. They're not about transforming bodies, and it's certainly not about transforming lives. So when people write that, I have to write back to them and say, well, you've bought into a lot of, you know, vogue trends of the industry. Now, where has it led you? And, you know, you should have learned something, but instead of learning that vogue trends aren't the answer, their mind is locked into the next vogue trend. That'll be the right one. So yeah, that's the, you know, you got to get out of that kind of thinking. So you know, as Sherry says, people want magic, and Sherry actually made a great comment the other day when I was talking about the multiple level marketing of the exogenous ketones and the rest of the nonsense that comes down the pike. And as Sherry said, since all these people are into making money, if the products actually worked, then why would they have multi-level marketing? They would just market the product and keep the profits themselves. You know, the only thing that makes it profitable is the multi-level marketing. So that was an amazing point you made, Sherry. You know, I don't want to just repeat that and take credit for it because that's something you said, but yeah, that's definitely correct. Why have multi-level marketing if your product is actually that good and makes a difference so quickly? Then why would the company producing it want to multi-level market it? You're not going to leverage it any better, so you'll actually, if it actually worked, make more money not paying other people and just keep all the profits yourself. So the fact that something turns into a multi-level marketing should tell you that it basically has little to no value other than what's hyped. Okay, and there was an expose show a long time ago that was representative of all this multi-level marketing, and it was on, what's the multi-level marketing company where you get a pink Cadillac if you get to the top? Some ladies, if we're ladies, someone will write in, I'm sure. Just the name escapes me right now. So, but you know, they did a whole documentary on that and how broke people were becoming trying to be part of this multi-level marketing and the cult that it creates, right? You go to all these conventions and you're the #1 seller and all this other stuff, and yet they became, Mary Kay, thank you, Anita. Yeah, it was Mary Kay, but it could be Isogenics, it could be any of them. That all these people, in order to maintain their status as high up the multi-level marketing chain, they were actually buying their own products, and some of them had like garage fulls of their own products that had to buy back just to maintain their status, and they were all going broke, even though they were represented at these conventions as, you know, like the top of the pyramid marketers and how much money they're bringing in, and it was all nonsense. So careful when people try to get you into like things like isogenics and Body by V and now exogenous ketones. Again, the fitness world, like most other worlds where greedy people can do this, okay, just be aware, you know, you're buying into the cult in subculture, so keep that in mind. Chad asks, do I subscribe any cardio to my clients? I'm not a big believer in cardio as in terms of body fat loss. Some of my clients, yeah, because Chad, I train the client from where they're at, not from where I'm at. So again, like I said last week, if someone's really, really obese, we can use that extra body weight as resistance, and then something as simple as walking becomes a resistance activity for that particular person. Now, that's the law of diminishing returns, though. Cardio is the first thing that has a very low ceiling as well in terms of production value. So the good thing about cardio would be like 8 weeks off, 8 weeks on kind of things. In other words, it's something you have to stop doing and then start doing again in order to get maximum benefits, if you understand the aerobic energy system and things like that. In my book, The Able Approach, folks, you can find the chapter, The Aerobic Myth, that explains how and why aerobic activity is not the fat burning activity you think it is. So yeah, sometimes, Chad, it depends on the client. And again, it can help a little bit, Chad, with building work capacity, just in terms of sheer volume of days of the week. If someone comes to me whose work capacity is very, very low for whatever reason, maybe they can only resistance train 2 or 3 days a week, but they have time to actually exercise 5 or 6 days a week, then I can use cardio on the in-between days to, one, establish regular training discipline so that they're going to the gym all the time. They don't give themselves the option to be lazy, try to develop that lifestyle, but also that little bit of exercise will actually help increase work capacity in a very tiny but efficient way as we're trying to up the ante in terms of work capacity. So good one. Sam says, will or can a relative deficit with an overfeed day create a metabolic environment to create muscle growth without having to do the whole big surplus thing? Yeah, I mean, it can. A lot of these things, Sam, are very individually based. So yeah, that's the whole idea behind the cycle diet, and that's the cycle.diet website for the course and the book. And yeah, it is Mary Kay. Thank you, Sonia. Mary Kay Cosmetics and all the rest of it is the pink Cadillac version. Maybe that wasn't the one the expose was done on, but I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. Jason says, you mentioned that Andy and other clients of yours don't do any cardio. When is it beneficial to incorporate moderate cardio as part of a program, and when it might have a negative metabolic or cosmetic effects? What about someone who enjoys distance running? Can this be incorporated in a 4-day strength program? No, it can't. Distance running and strength training are incompatible forms of activity. Now, in my program design masterclass, I talked about the principles of exercise physiology. It's called Module 0, explaining the energy systems, the anaerobic system and the aerobic system. And if you're going to distance run, you're actually tapping into the intracellular amino acids, branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Those drip into the bloodstream in order to sustain long-term activity. That message itself tells metabolism to slow down and use fat more efficiently. So then when you strength train, you're not going to get a max benefit out of there because you're not volumizing the muscle. You've already tapped its volumizing stores of the branched chain amino acids. That's the short version of that. So a lot of the times people want an answer that's what they want to do, not what they need to do, right? Like, so someone will only eat one meal a day, and then they'll justify that with what they need to do, when really it's just what's convenient for them, and they want someone to say that that's good and that's the right thing to do. So this is where things like intermittent fasting and stuff take on life, because for people who already live that way, who aren't really seeing results, they're told that that's a good thing, and then they're like, see. But no, they're not compatible activities. You know, you're never going to see a power lifter who can run a marathon in a decent time. You're never going to see a marathon runner win a powerlifting event. It's just not going to happen. They're not compatible activities. The best we have at combining the two would be the decathlon in Olympics. But that's a rare type of athlete that has both types of energy systems optimized. So no, there's really, and the other thing that people need to know, especially if you're over 40, is that the major cause of exercise-related conditions and mishaps and injuries are from running, believe it or not. Far and away the worst. Bad for the feet, bad for the knees, bad for hip alignment. Most people aren't taught how to run. They think they know how to run. I watch people running all the time because of where I live. It's a very outdoorsy fitness place, and when I go to Aruba, and I can tell a good running stroke the second I see it, and I very seldom see it. So most running strokes you see out there are just injuries waiting to happen, or chronic conditions waiting to happen, and then people wonder why they have bad knees or their hips and things like that. So and it's really not going to do much for you metabolically. It's just not. The only value to long distance activity is the calories you're burning while you're doing it, but it's not really a good investment return, because you have to go longer and longer all the time to get the benefits that you used to get at shorter and shorter distances. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you have an actual life to live. So, but I mean, if people love long distance running and that's in your DNA and you just love to run, that's a different story. Do it because you love it, but it's not cosmetically the most advantageous thing to do. So. Perry, I'll speak. If you ask me that, Perry asked a question about forced decrements. Ask me that on the live show with Andy on Thursday, Perry, because it would take me too long to explain since we're getting to the end. So, Alexander writes in, "Hi, Coach. I'm sick of people advocating fasted cardio with their BS science, but I don't have enough knowledge, a counter argument to shut them up." Well, yeah, fasted cardio is ridiculous, and it's been proven that it really has no extra value in terms of burning fat. And like I said, the activity itself has a diminishing return the longer you're doing it. So this is another one of those things, again, Alexander, where what is actually incidental is presented as if it's instrumental. Ooh, the magic happens because now we switch to fasted cardio. No, the magic is probably happening because now you're more disciplined, because someone doing fasted cardio is probably also paying closer attention now to diet strategy and things like that and being more exact. There's good arguments made by Alwyn Cosgrove. He talks about that a lot. in terms of the value of fasted cardio, which is basically no value other than a placebo effect. And I think there's something on WebMD about it as well. So yeah, it's much ado about nothing, Alexander. And people ask me all the time, Scott, will you talk about these things like exogenous ketones and the rest of it? You know what? I don't like researching negatives because it's a waste of my time. Why am I going to research stuff I know doesn't work? All right. And people want me to research it when I want to research the stuff that does help and does work. I don't want to spend an hour or two researching something to explain to people who don't want to hear it anyway why it's a bad idea or why it won't work. So when people ask me, sometimes I do it, like with exogenous ketones and fasted cardio, but I get tired of doing that. I'd rather research stuff that's motivating and inspiring and that can actually help people. But yeah, I mean, Alexander, there's so much of that out there, though. So much nonsense, especially hiding under the guise of fitness knowledge. Fasted cardio, 6 days a week and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Paul, you must have joined later and you must not know me very well. Your friend says that the keto diet is the best diet to lose weight. Do I believe so? No, I think it's ridiculous. I don't know why I have to keep saying this. Dr. Diana Schwartzbein, look at her YouTube video. She thinks it's ridiculous. She only has 25 years experience in internal medicine and is board certified endocrinologist. People like herself. And look at my protege, Andy Sinclair, on my cycle diet, eating carbs for 13 years with 8-pack abs and photo shoot ready year round. Myself, I'm going to be 56 this year, eat carbs every meal. No, almost every eat carbs as part of my diet strategy all the time. I've been in shape for 4 decades. So apparently, us that look at the top 1% physique-wise of our age group, we're doing everything wrong because we're not keto dieting. It must just be our genetics. No. So, Paul, your friend, I'm not in the convincing game with people who think they know. Get him to go on keto and tell me he's still on it in a year, and then I'll interview him. All right? If he's still doing keto in a year, I'll interview him. Or if he is, he probably just thinks he's doing keto and he isn't. How's Tracy from the Figure program? Blah, blah, blah. I don't do personal stuff, Tony. Sorry. It's not for me to talk about where other people are at in life. Junie asks, how long does it usually take a client to adopt to the original 5-day MET? I'm at the 5th week and my legs can't handle the volume. Yeah, lower the volume. That was definitely like the hardest program I ever offered for public consumption. It's like way high end, like Olympic athlete level high intensity. Because I was trying to teach at the time, my mindset was give the audience something of what it really takes to be at that level. So if you're struggling, that's the first thing. That's biofeedback. Listen to your body, dial down the volume, cut off a couple sets, slow the pace between exercises, and then your body will naturally, what we call, condition into working at a higher level. So don't force it, but cut back the volume. That's a great question. And congrats for doing the 5-day MET. That's pretty high-end crap. And I know I was the model in that particular program. People can get that at scottabelfitness.com, but I couldn't do that program now. That was way back 10 years ago, and there's no way I could do that now, Junie, just for comparison. At my age and stuff with my diminishing work capacity, there's no way I could do that program now. So congrats, that's a real high-end program. So Sonia says, don't run, just walk and enjoy the outdoors. I used to run. Her stepdad was a track coach. So her form was on point, but she still ended up with knee issues. Good point. Since taking running out of her regimen and doing my Scott Abel's unloading the knee warm-ups, which you should all do, she never felt better. So there you go. Some good advice there from one of my clients. Stopped running and started walking instead, and that's what I do. I enjoy good walks as well. So Alexander, I appreciate the kudos. Love what you do with Andy, and you're on the 3rd of my books. Well, please keep doing what you're doing. Well, I certainly will. But please, folks, if you're reading my books and stuff, especially if you get them on Amazon or whatever, please leave a testimonial and a 5-star rating and get the word out there for people who want real fact-based knowledge that's not trying to candy coat selling you something, supplements and the rest of it, that would be great. So oh, no worries, Paul. You guys are out here to ask the questions, so I'm here to try to give the answers. But the thing here, Paul, is since you said thank you for the answer, I want to differentiate because, and I've said this in a few of my podcasts and stuff. This term online right now is I'm an evidence-based coach. Like that's supposed to mean something. Well, I'm an evidence-based coach too, but my evidence is from 4 decades on the front lines of the fitness industry at the highest levels. So these people who say I'm an evidence-based coach and they rely on one piece of research is a little ridiculous. So, or they've read one book, all right, and they'll challenge me with, well, so-and-so said this in his book. Okay, well, I read 10 other books, so that said something else. So again, I'm going to speak from a level of 4 decades of experience. Paul, you may not know who I am, but I've been a big deal in this industry for a long, long time. So my bullshit radar is pretty well tuned. So yeah, I mean, a keto diet, I've always said, is like taking a chainsaw to open a can of tuna. All right, will it work? Yeah, it'll work. Is it necessary? No. So all right, so that's something to consider. And a lot of now people are chiming in on the unloading the knees. So Sonia, you brought up a good, yes, people, you can see part of my warm-up on YouTube is always should end with unloading your knees with tubing or TRX. And that's not something for me to explain. You can actually see it on my YouTube videos on the warm-up section, or I'll post it later on. So and again, Sherry's making a smart comment. Anyone can find evidence these days to support whatever you want to believe. It's kind of like fake news, and it's exactly what it's like in the fitness industry. Sherry, that's exactly what it reminds me of. So, yeah, just because someone can say, well, so-and-so dug this up on keto dieting. Well, you know, the originator of paleo dug up a bunch of crap as well, which was debunked you know, in really short time in the academic world. And gluten has also been, you know, marketing takes off so people can sell stuff, and then the academic world catches up and debunks it all, but by then it's entrenched in people's minds. So it reminds me, folks, of that old line, a lie goes around the world in 1 second before the truth has even had time to tie its shoes. That's how you sell stuff, you know, and unfortunately it gets into people's heads, and then they want to play the game, especially online, that I know more than you. Whatever, you know, people will listen to, they want to keep listening to. So Karen says, I keep getting injured, plantar fasciitis, shoulder injury, then bicep tendonitis. Wow, there's something wrong with your training then, Karen. I mean, that's your biofeedback telling you something's wrong. I can send you my warm-up videos if you write me at scott@scottable.com, but my warm-up videos are also on YouTube somewhere. Maybe someone will post in the comment section where those are. You can find them there. So, yeah. So, all right, folks, I think that's our hour. I don't see any other pressing questions coming in. And Perry, your question will just take too long to answer with the time I have left. So we'll follow that another time. So hopefully, folks, you liked the example I used about what Big C coaching is, and you'll consider it. And then my comments on naturopathy and homeopathy and all the rest of it. So, yeah. Just looking at some comments. So hopefully, folks, that's Breakfast with the Coach for this week. If you like the show, you know, throw us some thumbs and some hearts, and please, you know, hit the share button. I mean, nothing will help more than getting that out there week to week, getting a wider audience and exposing them to some more clear thinking rather than looking for simple magic solutions. Some things are going to take time, right? So for people who want real non-sexy answers, they can come here and get those. So if you sign on next week, then please, as soon as you sign on, hit the share button. So more people can see it before the fact than after the fact. So appreciate all the thumbs and hearts, folks. And yeah, I'll wait, and hopefully I will see you all, and even some more this time next week. So stay tuned for more Breakfast with the Coach. Thanks for being there. If you weren't, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me being here. So cheers.